So these are business financial assistance program through the Office of Business Resources. Our building improvement grant, our grant funds, both tenants and landlords could apply for up to $50,000 to improve their interior commercial space. We have the commercial, and that's a program that's located within TID districts, and Matt will talk about TIDs a little bit later on here. Next, our commercial ownership assistance program. This is a great program for entrepreneurs, underrepresented entrepreneurs who are looking to purchase their first commercial building. These are forgivable loans up to $250,000 or 25% of the purchase price. Our facade improvement grant, this is one of our longest programs. We provide matching grant funds to improve the storefront, and this is citywide. And then we have our Healthy Retail Access Program, which provide funding for food retail businesses such as grocery stores, convenience stores that are looking to provide healthy food access for low-income communities. Kiva Madison, that's an interest-free loan that is crowdsourced. So the businesses would then apply to get a loan, and the city of Madison would make a match. And then the small cap TIF loan program is also a forgivable loan for businesses within TIF districts to receive for real estate improvements, and then also equipment and capital costs. And now it doesn't want to work. Okay, there we go. It's just a little leg. And then, so this is just a quick overview of our 2024 financial assistance funding that we had last year. The Acre Pre-Development Grant, so that is a grant that is specifically for associates in commercial real estate graduates, and thank you DMI for helping to connect the students, providing them with a membership and being a great mentor. So thank you, Jason, for that. And last year we funded 2 pre-development grant programs or recipients. And then you could see that our building improvement grant, 32 applications that were received and funded, and close to 1.5 million. So it's a very popular program here. Our business district support grant, we funded 3, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Commercial ownership, facade improvement, and healthy retail access. So this is just a quick recap. And then next is just a small summary of examples of businesses that we've funded downtown. So again, as you can see, building improvement grant is very, very popular, and this is just a handful of businesses that we funded in the downtown area. There's a lot more that we've funded, but could only fit a few in one slide. So the business district support grant. So that was an ARPA funded program that we launched a couple years ago. And this is to provide local organizations to help assist just basically throughout the city of Madison to create programs or help activate or reactivate business districts. And we're happy to say that DMI applied last year, and we're funding the 3 business associations. So Willie Street, I believe that's a brand new one. And then, I'm sorry, Regent Street, that's a brand new one. And then reactivating Willie and Cappy. So thank you, DMI, for applying and helping us to create those business associations. And next, I'll turn it over to Matt, and he's going to talk about the TIF districts.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. So many of these small business development programs, and this is something really new for the city, are funded through our tax increment finance districts. Historically, I think as everyone knows, we've used TIF to provide funding to developers to do larger development projects. And in the course of the pandemic, we identified that there's really an opportunity to create these grant programs and to fund these grant programs through our TIDs. And so we increasingly are adding funding within the city budget via TIF to provide the small business support. So we have currently 5 TIF districts in the downtown, and I'll just briefly touch on them. The first is TID 50, which is our State Street TID. As you can see, it runs basically the entire length of State Street.
Yep.
We have TID 45. This is located roughly on the southwest portion of the Capitol Square. This is TID 53, which is on roughly the southeast portion of Capitol Square. You can see it runs along King Street and then picks up Wilson Street, also looping over to Block 113 or the Brayton lot, which is a development project that we'll talk about a little bit more later. TID 36, this is a great TID, one of our healthiest TIDs in the city. It runs along East Washington Avenue. This TID admittedly will only be around for 2 more years, and then we will have met our state statutory requirement to stop spending funding out of it, and it'll close soon thereafter. Probably in the future, though, I suspect that there'll be another successor TID in this neighborhood, given that there's still a lot of opportunity for development. And then finally, we have TID 48, which is the Regent Street TID. As you can see, it runs the entire length of Regent Street from Camp Randall to West Wash, and also picks up a large portion of West Wash. Currently, we're using this TID to fund a lot of the work that's taking place in the Triangle that we'll talk about a little later on. But over time, we just anticipate that this TID, similar to TID 36, is really going to benefit by a lot of increment being generated by a lot of new private development. And so we will likely have some opportunity to do some great things along Regent Street in the future out of this TID. So speaking of bigger development projects that the city's leading that would be of interest likely to this group, one of the most notable is the RFP that we're about to issue for Block 113, otherwise known as the Brayton lot. And just to kind of orient everyone, this is the surface parking lot that the parking utility used to operate just on East Washington Avenue, between East Wash and Main Street. And you can see in the lower left portion of the screen, that's the Jeff 1 building. So this is that surface parking lot that's across the street from Jeff 1. And we'll be issuing an RFP for the entirety of that city block. And right now, the Common Council is currently reviewing the RFP, and hopefully will on next Tuesday be providing approval to proceed with issuing that RFP. For those that are familiar with the city Legistar system, you can actually go in and take a look at the RFP. So even though the RFP has not been released, it is actually posted online, and you can certainly review it. If the council gives us that authorization, we'll be issuing that RFP on April 3rd. It'll be due on July 25th. The Finance Committee is going to be the lead body at the city reviewing these proposals, obviously with staff input. And one important note about this project is we federalized the land through the Federal Transportation Authority as part of the BRT project. So you may have seen in recent years that the property was being used as a staging area for the BRT project. And we were allowed to then count the land value as part of our city local match for the federal BRT funding that we received. That does mean that there are going to be certain provisions that we're going to have to follow moving forward as we move through that RFP process, and I'll chat about those a little on the next slide. So the goals of this project are mixed use redevelopment. This is, an entire city block right in the heart of downtown. We suspect, given the environment today, that a large portion of that development will be housing. Given that the property was federalized, one of the requirements is that we have to have a long-term revenue source for Madison Metro. We have to, in other words, basically recover that value of that land over the long term for Madison Metro. And that can happen in a number of ways. It can happen through a single purchase up front. It can also happen through a long-term lease arrangement with the developer. But we do need to show that Madison Metro is going to receive payment through the sale of that property. We also have to cap the number of parking spaces that we're allowed to have at 270. This was the number of parking spaces that were there before the project, and we can't exceed that through this new development. As a city, we're going to want to see some affordable housing incorporated. We're going to certainly want to see some green and sustainable design, and especially given this really, key location right downtown, right on East Wash, we're going to want to make sure that we have some quality buildings as part of this effort. So there's going to be a lot of this in the years to come. It takes, if you look at previous RFPs for a project of this size, once we receive it, it takes a good year to really identify what developer we want to partner with, and then really another year to negotiate after that. So we're at the very start of something that is going to be occurring over the next several years. Another big project that construction hopefully will kick off in May is the CDA's redevelopment of the Triangle. And this is the CDA housing right along West Washington Avenue. This is going to be the kickoff of 8 to 10 years worth of construction on that triangle in multiple phases. At the end, we hope to replace 336 units of existing CDA housing with over 1,200. Again, construction is going to start this May on the first phase and end in 2027. And on the next slide, you can see the phasing plan over basically 5 phases. The project that's going to kick off this May is not going to be very visible from either Regent Street or West Wash. You can see it's the blue building that's sort of in the middle of the property. And then as we move into phase 2, we move out to West Wash, phase 3 and 4, out to Regent Street, and then finally phase 5, the corner there of Park and West Wash.
All right, so next, another exciting thing that we have going on in economic development is our economic development plan. And the sun keeps following me, so I might have to keep on moving over to your side. All right, so just a little bit about what we're looking to do. So this, of course, we're going to have components of a traditional economic development plan, but this year we're looking to be more intentional and focusing on more of a people-centric economic development plan. And so generally, we released an RFP actually last year. And I think we had several applications, probably 9 proposals, and a couple consultants were selected. So Fourth Economy, they were selected to do the data analyses for us, and then EQT by Design, which I think you all might be familiar since they're helping with the downtown strategic plan as well. They're local here and they're going to do more of the engagement part of it. But in general, this is going to help us develop our work plan within the next 5 years for city staff. And then just kind of, as I mentioned, so Fourth Economy and EQT by Design, they have started doing some work. So Fourth Economy gathered some data, and I think a lot of folks, maybe from this or our partners from DMI, Downtown Madison, the bid gave us some data, and so they've looked through that, just conducted some baseline analysis. And then now we're going to start kicking off some engagement, and we're actually having our first stakeholder engagement this evening or this afternoon at 4. And I'll talk a little bit about ways that you all could be engaged as well in a little bit. But we did wanted to talk about some key points, and this was also kind of from the mayor, from the community, from our economic development committee members. So some of the key points of interest are wealth, so helping families, individuals and families build generational wealth, so looking in ways on how the city could help create that. Circulation, again, our dollars here in the city of Madison, making sure that we're spending local dollars, how can we support the local economy, making sure that it's circulated within the city. Helping develop our neighborhood districts, which DMI is doing. So thank you for that, creating some new ones, and then seeing how the city could support our neighborhood districts as well. Entrepreneurship, supporting our small businesses, and then of course supporting industry and doing a SWOT analysis and all the traditional economic development components as well. And then here are some ways that you all could be engaged. So we are going to, or the consultants will be releasing a survey. So they'll send that to us, I think pretty soon. And so once we get that, we'll send it to Jason and you all, and we would love your input. So if you could fill out the survey, we'd greatly appreciate it. And then, as I mentioned, we're kicking off the stakeholder advisory group this afternoon at 4. I believe, I don't know, Jason, since you're in Florida, oh, you're still attending? Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay, great. So a lot of leaders here will be involved in our stakeholder advisory group. And then other ways you could participate are some public workshops, the build sessions that the consultants will be doing, and then the targeted focus group, which I spoke to folks at the bid. So for example, like they have their real estate committee group, and we said we could have the consultants work with you all on these targeted focus groups. So if you want to have like a specific DMI focus group or a downtown business focus group, but we want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, since there is that DMI strategy that you are all working on as well. So those are some ways, and feel free to just email me and Matt if you're interested in participating. And then, as I mentioned, the downtown strategic vision plan that you all have started, and we are very happy with the ongoing partnership. So we're excited to continue that partnership, especially with the economic development plan happening at the same time. So it's a great overlap. And then we have EQT by Design, who's also helping with the downtown, and then our city of Madison. So it's a great way to collaborate. And then we're also supporting financially as well. So we appreciate the partnership. Next, I'll kick it off to Matt to talk about some other items here for downtown.
Yep, so just wanted to take a moment to recognize that, in addition to these upcoming, large redevelopment projects the city's leading and these small business programs, there's a lot of development happening within the downtown. And so we just want to kind of recognize all of our colleagues at the city, in engineering and planning and zoning and building inspection, that are really devoting a lot of time in recent years to the downtown, just given the volume of development that we're seeing. And of course, to thank all of you. Many of you, these are your projects or projects that you're working on in one capacity or another. So, it is really an exciting time, I think, to be, working in downtown, living in downtown, engaging with the downtown. Just the landscape is changing. So thank you for everything that DMI does to continue to support all of that work. Another item, again, we're sort of in the part of the presentation that's sort of miscellaneous things now, is we just want to recognize that, one of the concerns that we know exists downtown and citywide is homelessness and the provision of homeless services. And for those that haven't been on Stoughton Road recently, the permanent men's homeless shelter is under construction as we speak, and will likely be open in early 2026. We recognize that building the shelter alone does not address all of the challenges around homelessness that we have as a community, both downtown and elsewhere. But this is an important step in the process of working with the community on addressing homelessness. And we appreciate all the work that DMI has done over the years to help support the city's efforts in this regard, and look forward to continuing to work with all of you and the broader community in the years ahead. It is springtime, so of course construction is going to start soon. And so we just wanted to touch on what's probably going to be the most impactful or noticeable project within the downtown that'll be kicking off really next week. So basically through the month of April and May, East Wilson Street will be entirely closed between King Street and Pinckney Street. So the reason that we need to do this is as part of finishing that Wilson Street reconstruction project, we need to replace the sanitary sewer underneath. As I think everyone knows, it's a very narrow area of land, and there's a lot of things happening in that space. And so the decision was made that the most effective way, both from a timing and financial perspective, is to simply close the street. And so what'll happen while Wilson Street is closed is traffic will be rerouted up King Street and then down Pinckney Street. We recognize that this is extremely impactful to the downtown as a whole, but also to the businesses in that area, especially those that are on King Street and Pinckney Street. We do have next Tuesday a public information meeting. If anyone is interested in joining, Jason has the Zoom invite and he can forward that on. There's also a project webpage on the city engineering website. If you just go City of Madison Engineering, you'll be able to find all the project websites for all of our engineering projects. Aaron Canton is the lead engineer, and he'll be available as well. There's already been communication with those businesses, and throughout this entire process, our team at engineering will continue to have dialogue with those businesses. Well, just put out a reminder though that we do have, there's a lot of great information on the city engineering webpage about road construction. If you go, they have project pages now for all of the road construction projects. Again, this one is probably going to be the most impactful downtown. There is going to be some resurfacing elsewhere downtown, but probably not as impactful as the Wilson closure. We are looking ahead to, not this year, but in future years, the reconstruction of John Nolan Drive, which is going to have a major impact on certainly downtown. And we're very interested in working with all of you and our engineering team to prepare for that when it happens, likely starting in 2026. And in the meantime, though, certainly available to help as much as we can with the impact road construction has. I think that concludes our formal comments. I know though that many of you are likely going to have questions and want to talk about other things, so we've definitely left a lot of time to have a conversation.
Maybe just quickly on the topic of road construction, can you talk about the status of the plans for Regent Street in particular, since that plan was kind of announced this week and that's going to be a major component of that future development?
Yeah, the Regent Street construction.
Yeah, where it sits or where it is in the planning, just for everybody's.
Yeah. So Regent Street reconstruction has been pushed out a few years, and so it's not going to happen imminently. I think maybe 27, 28 is what they were talking about, but it's not. So what that's going to afford the community, and I think Jason's going to want to speak to this. I see his hand up. Is the opportunity to do some additional planning work in preparation for that reconstruction. So it's probably a win-win in that it just provides more time.
Jason?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to Matt and Saran. You all have been absolutely amazing partners to work with. We cannot do the work that we do in downtown without you. So truly, thank you. From the partnerships on the neighborhood business associations to the communication and all these projects to the coordination that we're certainly going to have with the EDC plan, the city's land use plan, the downtown plan in 26, and then our strategic visioning plan. So thank you. To answer that question, Regent Street was originally scheduled to be reconstructed in 26, but because of the timing of John Nolan and potentially Park Street, they moved the construction to either best case scenario late 27, but most likely 28. However, I think it's very important to note that the planning work for Regent Street is going to happen this year. So Matt and Saran, I believe they're very close to signing an agreement with an engineering firm and a community outreach firm, one firm, to do the planning work for Regent Street this year. And by the end of the year, they hope to have a plan. So mid this summer, sort of fall, they'll have a whole series of stakeholder group meetings about what that street is going to look like. This is a massively important topic, obviously, for downtown, the center of downtown, the western side of downtown. So we just want to say thanks for the partnership. Matt and Saran have been very open and honest about this project, as has Andy Zweig and Yang Tao and all the folks in transportation and engineering. So thank you.
Great. So on that note, we've got the rest of the time this morning, most of it at least, open it up to questions for other topics that people want to dive into, or questions for Matt, Saran, otherwise.
Question for Matt, real quick, with regards to the Brayton lot. You
Yes.
said that the timeline, maybe a year of RFP and negotiation, another year of contract signing. So I understand right now it's being used as staging area for the Porchlight project. What do you think over the next 18 months, what will the Brayton lot be used for? Is there already thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it unfortunately it can't be used for parking utility parking.
Oh,
Yeah, because that was the sort of the bargain with the FTA by using that as our match. So it will, it may enter a period where it's really not being used for anything.
Okay.
Now, certainly we regularly are receiving calls from developers or construction firms like looking for laydown space, and because there's so much construction activity happening. So we might, through temporary land use agreements, just allow people to use it for storage, but it'll probably be generally vacant through that time.
Got it. Okay. Is it possible those restrictions go away?
If changes at the federal government occur.
It was
You never
section
know.
5730, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, something tells me things that transportation aren't gonna change drastically, at least for that type of stuff.
Few different issues. Thank you for helping out DMI on the business districts things. It's been very critical. What's helped us, we used to have the William Street East Washington, and we had to split them up because East Washington developed. But what really gave us the ability by bringing Jason in to be kind of our facilitator, executive manager, he runs our meetings well, and through DMI, the messaging goes out, and it's been really nice because normally the different business people don't get their emails out and everything else. So I really appreciate the help, because for us on the East Washington, Jason is very helpful on doing that, dealing even from our meetings, leading Beacon and dealing with the police captain, lieutenants and everything else. So DMI, with their assistance and also with what helps with Jason being involved in so many different organizations, it gives a common denominator of everything. So thank you for assisting that. The other thing which I'm really happy about is like when we did East Washington, we bought Monson 02, but then we did the build. And by planning the whole area out by region from the stadium all the way down to West Washington, then we think through everything. So I'm happy to see that. What's going to happen at the stadium with that game day experience and working Regent Street out and tying it all down is nice. But also you had the Triangle Monona Bay meetings about 3 years ago to set that all up to where the Triangle can work. Another question is, have you been the assistants on the geothermal testing they've been doing in there? Because I know the city's been leading that. Because it's hard when we try to work through the grants through solar and geothermal and all the other requirements, it becomes unprofitable to do it. And so I don't know, can TIF be used for geothermal? I haven't asked Gramac
Yeah.
yet. Okay. Because we try to be energy efficient, plus on your Brighton lot, it says all electric, which is a very tough thing to do in high rise, but that's the way it is. So I want to thank you for helping on. Thanks. I'm glad we're master plan Regent, because we have the 6 acres across the street from Triangle, and this all helps out taking through that. So thank you for that. And it really helps with Jason and DMI running our business association districts coming in there, because it gets it out, coordinates us. Plus you've got somebody that's dealing with the city all the time that helps us. This works or doesn't work. And so thank you for backing that. It's been extremely helpful to us as we move forward and dealing with the other issues as they come up. So thank you.
Matt, Saran, other topics to be discussed. Can you give a brief update, maybe somewhat to Nathan's point, right? Like, where do federal funding pressures and otherwise, where are they hitting at the city right now? Is that a risk that we as a community need to be aware of? Is there anything we can do? Just where does that sit as we are here on March 20th, 2025?
Yep, I mean, it's a big risk in a couple key areas. They include on the housing front, Section 8 vouchers in particular. We, through the city, funded by the federal government, we provide over $1 million worth of Section 8 vouchers on a monthly basis. So, and that's a reimbursement program. So we provide the vouchers and then we are reimbursed. So $1 million, a month, that's 12 million a year worth of housing support that we provide to individuals throughout the community. And I think, as everyone knows, Section 8 vouchers really can be used throughout the entire community. So it's really hugely impactful if those go away or if they change in any way. Another key area is our community development block grant funding. We receive well over $10 million of CDBG funds per year that we provide to support to many nonprofit organizations and many other worthy initiatives throughout the community, including some of our business development programming. Madison Development Corporation and the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation both operate small business loan programs that are funded by CDBG dollars that come through the city. And we already know that we are putting a pause on new loans through Madison Development Corporation and WIBIC in 2025. So already it's impactful from the standpoint that they will not be able to provide new loans to new businesses until we can figure out if the feds are going to roll back CDBG or not, because their CDBG is always on a reimbursement basis. So we just don't know at this point. Other key areas include the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is responsible for a lot of our transportation planning. They are almost entirely funded federally, and that's the case in communities throughout the country. So that would be very impactful if that funding is rolled back. There's a lot of federal funding that goes into our city engineering work for transportation projects, both directly from the federal government and indirectly via the state. So, all the road construction projects that we're working on, we may not be able to do as much road construction projects if some of that federal funding is cut. BRT North-South is a huge open question at the moment, whether or not the federal government will continue to provide funding. We are in a good position relative to North-South BRT in that we have our initial approvals. Sort of the federal government approves these projects in stages, and like the money has not been enumerated, but we've gotten sort of the initial nod of approval, but that could change. And again, it's not a done deal. That could be very impactful for North-South BRT. And then Amtrak is a huge open question at the moment. We were all excited because it was looking very positive that we might have the opportunity to bring Amtrak to Madison. I think there was news even just yesterday on Amtrak at the federal level. Remains to be known, what's going to move forward, because a significant portion of that work would be federally funded.
Do you have a sense how much of those challenges run through the administrative branch, executive branch versus congressional budget authorities when budgets get enumerated and eventually passed later this year?
Yeah. Does Congress have authority anymore? I guess is the question. It's both, right? So obviously Congress enumerates funding and through the upcoming, Congress could make a decision to stop funding, but we've already seen situations where the administration has made decisions to stop funding things that Congress had already funded. So that's part of the dynamic of trying to figure out really, regardless of if Congress has approved it or not, is the funding actually going to be there?
Is there any chance the state steps in any way to help fill any gaps or those conversations that are ongoing? Have you heard anything on that front?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple ways of looking at that. First, let's just set aside what's happening at the federal government for a second and pretend that everything's normal. We are actively, as a city, as I think probably everyone's read in the newspaper, we have now hired a consultant team to actively work with the state legislature and identifying ways to increase revenue for Madison. Some combination of maybe sales tax, other fee opportunities, but to identify other sources, because although certainly the referendum helped on a short term with the operating deficit, in the long run, the city still needs additional revenue. So from an operating standpoint, we're actively engaging the legislature to see what can be done to help support Madison. On top of that, I think it remains to be seen to what degree the state would be able to step in and fill some of those voids of the federal government. It's a heavy lift. There's a significant amount of federal dollars that don't just go to Madison, but the entire state. And so, my guess is the short answer is no, that there's really not a way for the state, barring huge tax increases or spending cuts in other areas, there's really not a way for the state to just sort of close that gap on its own.
Matt, without putting too fine a point on it, how much funding is at risk here by a factor of 10? Are we talking tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars?
Tens of millions for the city.
Just for
the city.
I'm glad you hired the lobbyists this whole time, because we're not getting our fair share out of stuff, but you need a lobbyist, and you hired a good one that's every day in the legislature instead of when we want something. So at least we work through, because we don't get a pro rata share. I think that's extremely helpful. Oh, on TID 36, there's a thing, what in the law, if you close it, you can keep it open for affordable housing for a while.
Yep.
Would you do that and then try to reinitiate? Because as I read through, a lot of money goes out to a lot of places for TID 36.
Yes, so what Kurt's referring to is the state statute allows, so first of all, taking a step back, state statute requires that, in this case, a blighted TID close after 27 years. And you only have 22 years to spend funds out of that TID. That 22 years is up in 2027. So we have about 2 years left that we're able to spend money out of the TID. And I know for those, I started with the city in 2007, and it's hard to believe we're closing a
You're a
TID.
young puppy.
But here we are, and so we will stop spending money in 2027. That TID then, because it's doing so well, will probably retire its remaining debt in likely 2028, 2029. And then under state law, you are allowed to keep it open for another year to capture a year's worth of increment to direct to affordable housing. And we will definitely do that. That TID is currently generating over $10 million of increment per year. And so that means over $10 million to use towards affordable housing for the city, which is great. And then, yes, at some point in the future, I anticipate that there will be a need or a desire for TIP support for other projects, and we could set up a new TID at that
So
time.
that's why when I look at it, why you're moving certain things out of our area to get that spending out of there now. Because when you read through the agenda, okay, here's $1 million from TID 36, here's 500. It's just to utilize it because it can be, otherwise you lose your chance for funding in the future.
Yes,
Okay.
so what we're doing there for background, under state law, you can also donate funding from one TID district to another TID district. And so what we've been doing over the past couple of years, and we'll be continuing to do through 2027, is we're donating most substantially funding from TID 36 into the TID 51 South Madison TID as a way to sort of jumpstart some of the economic activity and infrastructure work in South Madison. So that's what Kurt's referring to is donating money out of TID 36 into TID 51.
In terms of just the overall city as a whole, how many donor TIDs are there versus, I'll call them recipient TIDs? Is there a big difference across the spectrum, or is it fairly level across the however many we have?
There's only a few that we donate out of, and the donation plans are different. Like TID 36 donating to TID 51 is like a very large donation. In the past, sometimes we've donated if a TID has been underperforming for a couple of years to get it back on track. Like there's been some donations out of TID 42. There's been some donations, I think, out of TID 37. We don't do it often. It certainly is only a couple of TIDs where we do that, but it is a tool that we have.
How does the city promote the projects and funding it does do? By way of example, like when Wilson Street gets closed down, does the city put up a big sign that's like city tax dollar funded project, identifying what it is and where the funds are coming from? Does the city do that?
We typically don't.
Why?
That's a great question. So we did do it. You may have seen, we did do that in the case of when last year when Doty was under construction. We actually did have a sign that said, road construction completed by and what it's funded by. I think one of the reasons we don't do it is it's just another cost that we, but admittedly it's not an expensive cost, but certainly it is something we could consider doing.
Well, in my mind is, people hate taxes, but to be able to see when a project is going on, that might be annoying.
Mhm.
To be able to see the big sign and see this is being funded with tax dollars and the city is doing these things.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's a great
Theory
suggestion.
builds support for doing more things.
I think what Nathan is saying is it should also say Matt Mikolajewski.
Another math project, right?
Compliments and complaints.
Joy, anybody in the virtual world who has any questions or hand raised?
Yeah, Peggy does. Peggy.
Peggy, great.
Thanks. And thanks for showing the new men's shelter. I sit on the Porch Light board and work with Jim O'Keefe, and Jason and I have been working on raising funds for operations. So it's a very exciting project. The one thing that does concern me is we're building a shelter for 250 folks. Hopefully it'll be 24/7. So not only do they get a bed, but they get tools and resources to that lead to permanent housing. So I think like the plan is tremendous. The concern that I have is there's on an average night 73 folks when we get into the new shelter that won't have a bed. And so my worry is, where do those folks go? My question, Matt, is can we, does the city have any plans for the current shelter? Could that potentially be used for overflow? And again, it's not just for, putting heads in beds, as they say, but, to provide resources. Many of these folks would like to get a job. They don't have a computer to apply, et cetera. Is that a possibility, do you think?
It definitely is a possibility and something that we're certainly having conversations about. Just by way of background, as I think most people know, right now the sort of temporary men's shelter is over on Zaire Road near Easttown Mall. And that we renovated that space and it's been successfully used as a shelter now for the past 3 years, I think, even more. So it's an asset that we have available. And so that question has been raised. Another project that's going to be happening in the years ahead is Salvation Army's redevelopment of their East Washington facility as well, which houses women and families. Currently, though, most of the families are over at the old Carmenta on Milwaukee Street. So it's a long way of saying there's numerous pieces right now to the provision of homeless services in different locations. And certainly it has been discussed about maybe not forever, but is there a period of time where Zaire stays open to house some group of individuals, to be determined if it is single men still, or if we, use that as a service for single women while Salvation Army is doing their project. These are conversations that are ongoing, certainly, but no definitive answer at this point as to how that facility might be used.
Great. Well, Matt, Saran, thank you very much for being here this morning. Thank you for the presentation. Contact information is on the board, and I assume you guys are open to follow-up questions if people have them.
Absolutely.
Great. In the last few minutes here, Jason, did you have committee updates or anybody in particular that we need to get on the radar of the committee here?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Ben. Just a couple quick things. There was the conversation about rail. There was a great discussion at DMI's Transportation Committee last Friday with Chris Ott, the Deputy Director of the High Speed Rail Alliance, who happens to be a Madison resident, who had a really good presentation called Reasons for Optimism. So you can check that out on Downtown Madison YouTube channel. Peggy, next week, we're excited to have our friends at Quality of Life talking about with our friends at Destination Madison. So that should be good. We also held a webinar yesterday with our friends at Destination Madison, bid on immigration law, with Jennifer Johnson from Boardman Clark, Fabio Hamden from the county, and Karen Menendez-Kohler at Senator Hispano. So please do check that out. Really important information, particularly for small businesses. And then I think last up, I would say we've got a couple of bigger events at DMI coming up next 2 weeks. April 4th, our next Madison Milwaukee Downtown Exchange, thanks to our friends at Reinhardt who are hosting today. Thank you, Joanna, Jessica. MSN MKE Downtown Exchange will be on public space management organizations. This is a really important topic right now in the larger downtown world. We've got a panel led by our own consultant, Kate Jonkins out of MIG. It'll have someone from DC, Dallas, and Memphis. So please do join us on the 4th. And then our next New Faces, New Places will be on April 10th at the Embassy Suites. And a huge thanks to all of you that joined us earlier this week for our What's at Downtown Breakfast. We had a great attendance, talking about Regent Street Vision. And last week, our New Faces, New Places at LISO. So thank you to all of them first for all the support. I think that's the update.
Thank you, Jason. Well, thank you everyone for being here this morning. 5 minutes left or so. Nathan, did you have anything? No? Great. So, couldn't tell if that was I need to get out of here. We'll meet again next month in April, and then, of course, don't forget the DMI annual celebration still coming up in May this year as opposed to September in the South End Zone at Camp Randall. So hopefully you've bought your tickets, registered, and made progress on it. So, all right, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned for this month. Thanks, everyone.
Jeff. Yep.